What's up everybody, this is Marnik van den Broek and welcome to a brand new video. In today's video we're going to talk about the most important asset at an event. And no, I'm not talking about the speakers, the food or the goodie bag. I'm talking about the host. Yes, you heard me right. The host is your most important asset in an event business. How that is or why that is, I will tell you in this video. And most importantly, if you have the aspiration to become a host yourself, maybe just internally in a company, hosting small team events or internal conferences, or you have the aspiration or you're already doing it to become a professional host, well then this video is for you. We're gonna dive right in, why is it important and how can you become better at doing it. Damn. Now I know that's a big claim to make, to say that the host is the most important asset at an event. But don't get me wrong and bear with me. This video is not to, because I host a lot of events, not to advertise me as a host or to make it more important or bump up my rates. This is just to show you that if you're an event organizer, you really start thinking about what is the right host for our event. And if you're a host yourself, that you do not underestimate the role you have to play. Because in the worst situation, not saying everybody, not saying that you're thinking that, but in the worst situation, the host is often seen as just a monkey that reads names off a card, just introduces the speakers and asks for applause. But it's so much more. And like I said, bear with me, the speakers are super important. People come for the speakers, for the content. That's why they register. That's what draws in the audience. But if you have a big event, let's say you have 10, 15 speakers, they're only on stage for 30 minutes. So if one or two are bad, well, 30 minutes are gone. Well, bad speakers, shame of the budget, but we'll have 13 or 14 others that will rock the stage. So speakers are important. They bring the content, but they're all short snippets on your stage during the event. Food, drinks, super important. Definitely in Belgium, people love the food and drinks. Very important. Also in the wedding, people are focused on the food and drinks. So catering, the atmosphere, the interactions, the animation, the where they network, super important. And if you send them home with a souvenir, the goodie bag, all those things that surround us, all very important and adding up to the full experience and memory of your event. But those are all short elements. But there's one person, here I come, there's one person that is on stage the entire day. It's a morning, afternoon, evening, full day event. A person that will interact with the audience, that needs to become their best friend, that needs to link the speakers to each other, that make sure that the speakers have the best possible audience, the best possible energy, that they feel comfortable, that something is happening definitely in this hybrid virtual event, that if something goes wrong with the live stream or someone panics or there's something with the sound, whatever it is, that person fixes it on stage because everybody's looking and these events are live. All the preparations, the practicalities, the timings, everything you as an event organizer have been prepping for months, have been paying a lot of money for. There's one person that needs to be the glue that brings that all together, gets oversight over everything, and has to make sure that what you planned and envisioned for your event actually happens on the day. That's the host. That's the job of the host. And often when everything is planned and it's almost game time, people say, oh, we still need a host. Who can we take? Oh, I have a nephew. I'm exaggerating a bit, I know. But I have a nephew that is really fluent talker. Let's take him. Or we have a colleague that's very extrovert. We'll give him some cards. It's just announcing some names. That's how it often goes. But then that's risky business. Because if everything goes right, it might work out if that person has a natural flow. But if something goes wrong or there's a lot of technicalities involved, you have a hybrid event, whatever, you need to be trained. There's so much tension, so much nerve, so much pressure, so much demand that person needs to be able to cope with everything and have, like an octopus, 8 arms and spidey senses to manage everything. So for me, like I said again, I'm not saying this because I hosted itself and to make it more important than it is. Do not underestimate the role of a host. If you're a host yourself, you are more than a person that reads names off a card. And if you're an event organizer, if I would organize an event, speakers and the host is the first thing I would arrange. Then comes catering and all those things. But they will make or break your event. Now, if you're watching and you're a host or you're an aspiring host, you want to host events inside your company or you want to do it professionally on a larger scale, well, there are 3 things, like I said, that can really make and distinguish a great host from just an average one. And those three things are: number one, the circle is round. Shocker, the circle is round. No, the circle is round. What I mean by the host is not just a person that shows up at the event with their wardrobe, their dress, or their suit, or whatever they're wearing, and then reads the names of the cars. No, the host is the one that sits together weeks up front with the event organizer and hopefully gets involved as quickly as possible. Like I said, most important asset. Gets involved weeks up front, has meetings with the event organizer, talks to the speakers. Why? Because an event is not just an event. An event is a journey. And no matter what your event is about, is it IT, SEO, finance, public affair, doesn't matter what it's about, marketing, it's a journey. You want to teach your audience something, and you also book your speakers in function of that. So everybody brings something to the table. And if you have a full day event, every speaker has their role to play and brings some oversight, some vision, some strategy. Some people dive deep and go really into the tooling or whatever. That journey is not just a sequence of speakers broken by breaks, interrupted by breaks for lunch and some coffee. No, it's a larger story, not just told by one speaker, but by multiple ones. That's a good event. So also for an event organizer, you need not just think, oh, we have an event about this topic and we need the biggest names around that topic. No, you have the topic, you have a journey you want to take your audience to. How can we book the best speakers to tell this journey, to take them on a logical flow throughout the day? Now, if you connect with the host, that's why I say the circle is round, the host can help you with that. A good host will sit together with you and look at the speakers, look at the content, and listen to what you want to tell as an event organizer and help you arrange the speakers. They will help you see that there's a story connecting all the stories. So in the beginning, people will see all these speakers with their content, and in midst you have the host coming in, off stage, on stage, off stage, on stage. And at the end, not that I have to say it out loud, but the audience, you have a successful event and you have a successful host and the circle is round. And at the end, people say, oh my God, it's all coming together. People love that. It's all coming together because we started here with those speakers giving us a setting, a context. And then we went a bit deeper. And then we went really technical or went full or made some side jumps. And then we had someone wrapping it up. Those links that you would have in a normal story that we also have in your keynotes and presentations, you should also have in your event. That is like a movie. A logical flow that takes people on an emotional, interesting, filled with content ride, a journey. A host can help with that. And if you don't sit with them up front, the host can also make sure that at the event itself that there is still some sort of link. So when you're a good host, don't just read the names, say what the timings are, ask for applause, sit up front. Your job starts the moment they are planning the event and arranging the content, arranging the speakers. That's where your hosting job starts, because it's your job to bring it all together, to make it one story. And to really take the audience by the hand and guide them from one speaker to the other. And showing them at the end that there was a logical flow and that was a purpose to the sequence. And that all the speakers feel comfortable because they are positioned on the right time at the right moment in the day with their content. Circles round. That's your responsibility as a host. Do that. Your job starts up front. The second thing is time, tech, trust. It's also something you do as a speaker. You are there on time. You check your tech, your PowerPoint, your microphones, things like that. And your trust in yourself, and does the event crew have trust in you, and is there a nice relationship? That's what you do as a speaker, or should do as a speaker. As a host, you need to go beyond. Because as a host, you are the MC, master of ceremony. And yes, the technical crew is getting paid to make sure that the lighting and the microphones work. The stage crew, if you have a large event, the stage crew is responsible for the stage and everything is solid and it works. And then you have an event team that will manage where everybody will be seated and how the flow is and when people will be called in. Backstage crew making sure the speakers know where to be. Of course, depending on how big your event is. But definitely in the smaller events and also the big events, you as a host are the master of ceremony. So you have to make sure that the mics work. Check with the technical crew. You need to check on stage how the lighting is perceived by the speakers. Will you be blinded? Is it too dark? Is it too light? Are the batteries in the microphones? How will people come off stage, on stage? Is there a possibility, for example, to give you an example, for speakers to walk through the audience? You could say, well, that's really simple, just walk through the audience. No, because some speakers will give you feedback. You need to check that up front with the technical crew and let the speakers know if you want to go into the audience. Be aware that there would be some feedback to the speakers if not foreseen. Is there enough headsets? Do we have normal mics? How, if people have to come on stage to get an award, for example, where do they go off stage? What do they get? Do we need an extra person on the stage? I'm just naming these things. But that's all the responsibility of the host. You might be saying, no, Martin, that's not the responsibility. Yes, it is. Because the more you check, the more you have this in control, the better you will perform. Because the more you can focus on the audience and interacting with them. And the better prepared you are when something happens to go wrong. I don't know, something with the light, the sound. You won't panic. Because you checked up front. You know the crew backstage, you can communicate with them, and you have everything under control. The speakers are also more relaxed because there's a host that knows what he's doing and is managing everything and briefs the speakers up front, and they can also focus on their keynote, on their presentation. Combine all that and the audience will experience even more because they're like, wow, this is a well-oiled machine. And you could say, well, that's the responsibility of the event organizer. No, it isn't. Because the event organizer is often not experienced of standing on stage. And people that stand on stage know that you have to check the sound, the lighting, the positioning, how to interact with the audience, all those things. Bring all the elements, technical crew, event, bring them together as a host. Time, tech, trust. The more you're there up front, the better. That's why we also do big rehearsal days the day before a hybrid or a virtual event, because there's even more tech to check. Where are all the cameras? How are the cameras moving? How can we make sure that we're not with the back to the screen? What do we do when the Zoom call or the Teams call or people are getting zoomed in virtually? What if that doesn't work? Do we have contingency plans? We spend the whole day just practicing that. Less, of course, with physical events. Time, tech, trust. And the third part is the energy. Energy is so important. Definitely if you have longer events, the energy, manage the energy of the audience, because in the morning everybody's fresh and fruity and they're super excited because they paid a lot of money for this and they have big fancy speakers, so everybody's pumped up. But at the end of the day or the end of the afternoon, people just doze off because it's normal. People get tired, they maybe have a little dip after lunch. That's your responsibility as a host, to manage that energy, to make sure, because you're on stage during the whole event, that you keep that energy up by the way you present, by the way you interact. Not saying you should do exercises. You could if that is your style of hosting. It's perfectly fine. But keep them engaged. The more you engage with them, to keep that energy up, because the last speaker wants the same energy as the first speaker. That's what they deserve. And definitely have a big keynote speaker at the end. You want that to be your big bang. The audience should be there and still be there full focused. But also manage the energy for the speakers. Again, you're the host, master of ceremony. Let's say, for example, you have a great speaker. Kicks it off, boom, amazing. Then the energy in the room is super high. But if you did your prep work up front, circles around, you know that the second speaker or the third speaker is a good speaker but is lower on energy. I'm not saying a bad speaker, but just lower, just a bit toned down, different style. If you feel that the room is too excited, you need to bring, that might sound weird, but you need to bring the energy down, because you want to give the same playing field to that new speaker. If the energy is still here and then you have a more toned down speaker, the audience is like, what? We want more of this guy or this woman. What the hell is going on? Bring the energy down. If the energy is too down, and for example, you have a really bad speaker that destroyed the room, you got to bring it up. You got to work hard as a host to bring that energy back, get people excited again, because that next speaker needs to be able to feed on positive energy and not be dumped with an audience that is no longer in the mood to carry on with the event. So you need to constantly sense the room. Are we too high? Are we too low? Are we neutral? Where's the audience at? And what part of the show are we? What kind of speech is someone gonna? If someone says, I'm going to interact a lot with the audience. Check that with the speaker up front. Circles around. Do you want the audience to get used to the interaction? Well, then as a host, you need to interact before the speaker comes. But sometimes the speaker will say, no, I want you to stay away from the audience. So they're not tired yet of answering questions and I get a clean room. Well, then you do not interact, but you know that up front. If a speaker wants to do some crazy exercise or has a very, very sad anecdote that you want to share with, a very emotional one, prep the audience for it. You need to know that up front. So you can prep the audience and manage the energy in function of that speech, in function of that speaker. That's what I mean by managing the energy. That's your responsibility as a host. And also, if you're not experienced in that, it's really hard to detect, and so I'd say it's more than just reading those names. But also, the last thing for energy is, let's say a speaker is very new, because not everybody's an experienced speaker. Sometimes you have people from companies that do this once or twice a year. They have a great function, great content, but are super nervous. They're not used to it. And then you put them in front of 500 people. They're also, make sure you prep them in the backstage, that they feel as comfortable as possible, that they don't have to worry about anything except on their speech, and that they know, even though something goes wrong, their video doesn't play or their mic suddenly drops out for some reason, you are there, and that they know you are there, and that they don't have to fix it yourself. So when something goes wrong, you're there at the audience, helping them, interacting with the audience, and nobody notices that something's going wrong, and they can still feel comfortable. Take away those nerves and make sure that they can jump in a warm bath of energy of an audience that wants to listen. That's also your job as a host. Now you might be thinking, Marnik, I don't want to host events anymore. It's too much work. No, it's great work. It's a lot of work, and you need to be very focused. But if you do your job, other people will also do their job. And you will be the glue bringing it all together. You don't have to be a control freak, but you will be the one bringing it all together. And the audience will say at the end, wow, super smooth. What a journey. What an experience. I'm going home with even more energy than I started the day, even though we paid attention for eight hours. The event organizer will be like, wow, everything we prepped during months, you brought that together. And the speakers will be super happy because you gave them a warm, energetic audience, fixed or designed for their speech so they could really rock, do their thing, and bring their content in the best possible way. That's your job as a host. That's a master of ceremony. And that's why I say the host is one of the most important, if not the most important asset at an event.